Hello again. I hope you've been enjoying learning about Japan. Today we're going to do things slightly differently. We did a land apart last time, and today just skip a line on your line paper, and we're going to do emperors of early Japan. And you can put a box around that. I'm going to highlight it to show that it's a box. And we're going to go ahead and go with our first note. So the first thing you need to know is that Japan, a long time ago, was organized according to clans. And those clans fought for land and power. All right? And what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a look at the magazine that I've been using to show you, to get all this information. So here's that magazine right here. Page 4 and 5, Emperors of Early Japan. For thousands of years, the Japanese lived in clans, which are large groups of related families. Leaders of each clan ruled different parts of the country. The clans constantly fought one another for land and power. By AD 400, the Yamato clan had won control of most of the country. The leader of the Yamato clan became emperor of Japan. Although other clans continued to control their own lands, they owed their loyalty to the emperor. So, the clans fought for land and power. And the Yamato clan in 400 AD, which is also CE, had their leader become the emperor because he had conquered enough of the country. By the late 700s, the emperor and his family lived in splendid palaces in the city of Nara. Key clan members became nobles in the emperor's court, governing their former lands in the emperor's name. The noble families who belonged to the emperor's court lived there as well. Unlike peasant farmers or craftspeople who worked with their hands, members of the court spent their days painting, writing poetry, and admiring nature. So we're going to take a note on the emperor's court. They cared a lot about art and nature. And this aspect of Japanese culture is still around today. Even if you watch an anime, you will see lots of nature included and art that harkens back all the way to this time period. The Yamato clan claimed their leaders were descended from the sun goddess Amaterasu. They chose the rising sun as their symbol. Ancient myths told how brother and sister gods Izanagi and Izanami created Amaterasu and sent her to rule over the world. Because of this link to the goddess, the Japanese consider the Yamato emperor to be a living god. Other clans did not dare attack him. The current emperor of Japan traces his roots back to the Yamato clan. The emperor was considered to be a living god pretty much all the way up until World War II, 1945. The Japanese country still considered that emperor to be related to the gods in some capacity, or many people did. Super interesting. So Amaterasu, the sun goddess. And that narrative said that the emperor was a living god. By the way, if you have not started listening to Samurai Rising on Tales to Go, I highly recommend that. It's an amazing book. Samurai Rising on Tales to Go. It is nonfiction, and it's one of those examples where truth is more amazing than anything you could make up. We're going to go up here now. In 794, the emperor chose Heian, later called Kyoto, as the new seat of government. It remained the capital for more than 1,000 years. The emperor and his court members lived in the imperial palace. At the palace, beautifully dressed lords and ladies spent their days writing in their journals, playing music, and enjoying the flowers and trees on the palace grounds. The restful way of life at court was paid for by taxes collected from people in the countryside who managed and worked the emperor's land. Kyoto is the main idea. What are some details about it? It was the capital. There they had the imperial palace, and they taxed people in the countryside to pay for their rich way of life. You can see some beautiful blossoms on the trees. Japanese art loves blossoms on trees. Again, you'll see this in any anime movie you watch. You'll see blossoms on trees at some point. All right, female members of the court, such as Lady Komachi, there's a drawing of her here, dressed in layers of silk. Fashionable ladies powdered their faces to whiten them and blackened their teeth. Ah, fashion. So interesting. I wonder what items of fashion that we have today in America they will look back thousands of years from now and say, that's amazing they did that. So our next note is, see if you can guess the main idea, fashion. So what were the fashions at that time? Layers of silk, whitened faces, and blackened teeth. Around 1011, a Kyoto court lady, Murasaki Shikubu, wrote The Tale of Genji, one of the world's first novels. In it, she tells the story of a fictional Prince Genji. Much of the story was loosely based on her year as lady-in-waiting to the Empress Shoshi. So that's pretty cool. One of the first novels ever written, and probably the most famous piece of writing in Japanese history, was written by a woman named Lady Murasaki Shikubu, and is called The Tale of Genji. What do you think the main idea of that section is? We're going to say it is Tale of Genji. Written by Lady Murasaki, and it was one of the world's first novels. Right here, poetry. At court, poetry parties, lords and ladies were tested on their ability to write a poem on the spot. A person who produced a dull or poorly written poem could lose respect. Here, a group of people enjoyed painting and calligraphy at a tea house. So that's really beautiful art. What do we think the main idea of that paragraph was? If you think it's poetry, you are on the mark. So you would have to write on the spot poetry, and that would lead to respect. Kind of cool. Room 202, if you can write poetry on the spot, I would give you respect for that. All right. Busy with the arts, court officials spent relatively little time on the practical tasks of government. Over time, their authority over the clans in the countryside weakened. So they were paying so much attention to all the art they were doing, they forgot they needed to keep control of the people in the countryside. So the officials, they spent little time governing. And this leads eventually to a loss of power. And I will teach you about how that loss of power leads to a very, very interesting time period in Japanese history. Okay, please make sure you have all these notes on your line paper. Hope you enjoyed that story.